Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be discussing the milestone and landmark issue of Wonder Woman number 750. So this is a celebration, as DC Comics often does for its titles that reach a milestone number, and 750 is that issue for Wonder Woman. I have done similar discussions, reviews, whatever these things are, before for Action Comics 1000 and Detective Comics 1000. And I'm sure I'll be doing very soon, as soon as I can get it, when I get it. I don't know when I'm going to get it. The Robin 80-page giant? 80 year. It's 80 years of Robin, right? Whatever that is. The Robin special that's coming out. Because, he's one of my favorite characters. But I'm not here to talk about Batman's sidekick. I'm here to talk about the Princess of Themyscira, Princess of the Amazons, Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, whatever you want to call her. But first, I want to give a special shout out to one of my dear listeners, Private Peanut. Just want to say thank you for your support and thanks for listening to the show. And as well, I'd like to point out to the listeners that if you want more of me talking about various comic book related things, head on over to the Meanwhile at the Podcast show, hosted by George, who's been on many episodes of the Long Box Review podcast, and I've guest hosted on his show. And episode 52 is another such episode where George and I talk to Christopher Calloway of the Creator Talks podcast, which is a great interview podcast that everyone should go subscribe and listen to. So head on over to Meanwhile at the Podcast and have a listen there. And be sure to listen to another episode in the near future as well. So we'll start off here. Wonder Woman 750. This is interesting and kind of apropos, I guess, because the very first episode of the Long Box Review podcast, episode 1, was in part me discussing Wonder Woman number 600. And here we are, about 10 years later, and I'm talking about Wonder Woman number 750. So I thought that was kind of cool, just the way the numbers converge. So there is that. So Wonder Woman 750. Lots of creators on this. I'm going to first give the editors involved, and then as I get to each story or piece of art, the pinups in this issue, I will talk about who did what. But first off, this book was edited by Brian Cunningham and Brittany Holzer, with contributing editors Alex Antone, Jessica Chen, Mike Cotton, Marie Javins, Andrew Marino, and Andrea Shee. As often DC does, we had a bunch of variant covers for this special, and I chose the George Perez 1980s variant. That was an easy choice for me because I figured what I would get. Because, so George Perez with Laura Martin on colors. All the other covers are nice enough, but none of them screamed at me, "Hey, buy me, buy me, buy me." But I will say, I also hadn't seen all of them by the time I was doing my pre-order. It turns out after the fact that that was okay because none of them really appealed to me as much as the George Perez and Laura Martin cover did, but I really wish that DC Comics and other publishers who do things like this would do a better job or, change the policies in some way to get those images out to us for those of us who do the pre-orders, a few months in advance so that we can make an informed decision about which one we want. If I had known, for example, I did know this. I wish I had chosen a different Detective Comics 1000 cover, but so I think they did a better job at getting those covers along with the Action Comics. It's been too long now. I don't remember. But I remember seeing the Detective Comics covers before I made my order. Maybe it was a timing thing. Maybe I just did my pre-order before all those covers were released, and maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But it'd be nice if they would, get those out there as early as possible, if they're not doing that. Or conspiracy theory time, maybe they're doing this on purpose to try and get us to buy additional copies once we see that other variant cover that we must have. But I won't fall for it. All right. So the George Perez cover with Laura Martin, as I said, on colors here. It says here it's date stamped 2019, so I'm not sure when Mr. Perez did this, but it's a lovely little cover. Got Diana prominently in the middle, but then you got her on either side. And I thought this was a nice composition in a couple different ways. One is showing, I'll say, the three facets of Wonder Woman. You've got her as the warrior princess. She's in her Amazonian battle armor with a spear on one side, and on the other, she's in her I'll say her traditional outfit with the kind of eagle motif on her chest with her bracelets, hearkening back to her earlier days. So I kind of see that as the where the one image is the warrior princess, the other one is maybe the emissary of peace or the representative of loving submission. I'm not sure. It's more of a defensive pose, but also doesn't look like she's in battle either. So I'm not quite sure what that is trying to depict. And then, of course, you got the prominent figure in the foreground, which is Wonder Woman as the superhero. I also like how Perez, and he often does this in his work, as I recall, especially going back to New Teen Titans and also his run on Wonder Woman in the 80s. He has these motifs that he duplicates within his compositions, and this is no different. The Amazonian warrior image has her holding a shield. So you got this circular object near the bottom, but at the top with the logo Wonder Woman, which is kind of curved. But then you also have the lasso going in a circular, suggesting a circle. Actually, almost in a couple different ways, which I thought was really kind of cool. There's also the birds. I presume they're doves, to reflect the peace aspect of this. Flying through here. And then you have a stylized Wonder Woman logo near the bottom right corner with some birds. So it looks bird-like. And her Wonder Woman as the superhero, her feet are on top of that, also evoking the sense that she's flying. So I thought that was really kind of cool, the way that Mr. Perez did that. So there are 9 stories in here. Stories might be somewhat too generous of a term in some cases, but there are 9 entries in here, plus a bunch of pinups. And so I'm just going to go through these in order. And first up is The Wild Hunt Finale by Steve Orlando, Jesus Marino, Vicente Cifuentes, Romulo Fajardo Jr., and Pat Brousseau. And this is the finale, as it says, of the current storyline that's been going on in Wonder Woman, which I have not read. So it's interesting to come into the end of a storyline in this way. But I think the team did a really good job in the way that they presented the story, because I didn't feel lost for the major beats. There are obviously details that I don't know about. But there is some sort of obviously a conflict, but something going on with Cheetah and Hera, the Greek god Hera, having to do with Wonder Woman. It appears to me that Cheetah possesses at the beginning of the story, I believe, the lasso of truth, and also Wonder Woman's tiara. So she is taking on the persona of Wonder Woman, or taking her vestiges of power. Not quite sure of the details of that, but Cheetah is definitely trying to get Diana to join her side of this argument, because it does seem to be a philosophical argument as well as a physical argument. And I like that aspect of seeing essentially Diana fighting against these two halves, and in the end trying to come to some resolution. So I thought that was a nice way to end this story that I didn't read the other parts of. So I also liked how Diana's roles as warrior princess, emissary to man's world, and a symbol of hope and love are balanced in here. All those things are touched on in various ways. She prevents Cheetah from murdering Hera, but then also rejects Hera as her patron, I guess. So she, as she says, the mission of Wonder Woman must be defined by Wonder Woman. And that mission, as she redefines it for us, is a search for the truth, quote, the one true mission, although I'm not quite sure what that means. Unless she's just talking about truth as a true mission. So that's kind of a weird word echo there. But anyway, I liked how, we see this kind of story beat before where the hero or the protagonist of the story anyway rejects their patrons, for lack of a better word, their mentors, and defines things for themselves. So it's kind of like a coming of age story in a way, where the young person, while taking in the advice and mentorship of the older adult, then forges their own path. The student becomes the master type story, which is weird because Diana's been around for a very long time in comics. So I'm not sure why that needs to be for her. But again, I haven't read the previous parts of the story, so maybe it makes sense. I am very curious how this new paradigm, i.e. Diana rejecting Hera and defining her own mission, how that will play out. Also, is there some connection between this redefined mission of pursuing the truth with the Wonder Woman rebirth story, The Truth, by Greg Rucka, Liam Sharp, and Laura Martin? Oh, Laura Martin again. So yeah, just this idea of Wonder Woman as some sort of paragon of truth, and I'm sure that's been touched on many times over the years. Trying to remember what major storylines besides the one I just mentioned. Actually, what I'm wondering is, has Diana ever been personified as some sort of symbol of truth in some story? There's something rattling around in the back of my brain that suggests that is true. So yeah, where's this going? I know that the Wonder Woman is getting a new creative team here coming up. So I'm interested how, if these elements of this story will continue with that new creative team. So I guess we shall see. In terms of art, there were a lot of nice page compositions. For example, on pages 2 and 3, there was kind of a double page spread where Diana seems defeated in the left-hand image, in the way that she's looking down, the way that her hands, she's kind of staring at her open hands in front of her. It's kind of I interpret that as kind of she feels defeated in a way. And then on the right side of this spread, she's looking up and her hands are clenched in fists. So she's more resolute. She's more alert, I guess. I just like the dichotomy of those two images together. And then on pages 5 and 6, there are the three characters, Wonder Woman, Cheetah, and Hera. And so they're in, I guess, inside the lasso in a way. I'm not quite sure how that works. But they, basically the truth, they can't hide from the truth. The three of them, and Diana engineers it to bring them into that realm or whatever that is. But there are the three characters, or as I saw it, they're like the symbolic sides of the story, perhaps. And then there's a bunch of panels surrounding that area. So the three characters are standing there, and in the background is just black. It's just blackness. It's dark. But then you have all these panels from like the left side going down the 2-page spread and then up on the right. And I like how those panels suggest or they show that the three are trapped within that realm or whatever. So it's kind of confining. Which is interesting because, you always hear about how the truth will set you free. And it does, because on the next page, there is a splash page, that's depicted in a basically 3 columns, but, Wonder Woman's there, overlapping the 3 columns, but she's now taken possession again of the lasso of truth. And it's a nice depiction of that. And then finally, on pages 19 and 20, we see Diana flying away from Themyscira. So it's kind of the classic superhero pose. She looms very large on those 2 pages. It's just a nice composition. I liked it. So not bad. I'm really curious. There was the silencer in here. Cheetah had this god killer sword or something. Anyway, it was well done. I enjoyed that first story. Immediately following this story is a pinup by Ramona Fraden, Sandra Hope, and Trish Mulvihill. You kind of got the classic Wonder Woman look, but again, depicting her roles as emissary of peace and warrior, because you got her holding a sword, and then in the other hand is a dove on her hand, and weirdly, broken chains around her feet. Or maybe not so weird. I'm not sure, but it seemed kind of weird to me that she has those chains there. Anyway. And then following that is another pinup, wonderfully done by Travis Moore and Tamara Bonvillain. Just a nice composition, nice inks, colors. It's kind of muted. The only problem I have with it is that it features prominently Diana with Steve Trevor. And it's really only, it's a personal thing. I never liked the whole Diana Steve Trevor romance. I especially now, I know he's a classic component to the comics and her overall story, but he seems so small in comparison to what Diana is, especially in the more modern depiction of Wonder Woman. And quite frankly, he seems like an unnecessary and vestigial part of her mythos. So as far as I'm concerned, they can just totally write him out in ongoing stories involving Diana. But lovely art by that team. Next up is a new character to me. This is Star Blossom. Her real name is Peony. And she has these. I'm sorry. The story is From Small Things, Mama. This is written by Gail Simone with Colleen Duran, Hi-Fi, and Dave Sharp on the art. Anyway, Star Blossom is this girl. It seems like she's been in other Wonder Woman stories. I'm woefully ignorant of a lot of Wonder Woman history. I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman comics. And even though I have a whole run of Gail Simone's Wonder Woman in my comic boxes, I have not read it yet. So mostly my exposure to Wonder Woman has been through her appearances in Justice League comics and guest appearances elsewhere. So, and obviously I had, obviously to me, you don't know. I have the first 2 years worth of George Perez's 80s Wonder Woman volume. So besides that, though, I don't have a whole lot to go on here. And that's really unfortunate. But be that as it may, like I said, Star Blossom is a new character to me. So I'm really curious now where she's appeared before. I have to look that up. Curse you, Comic Book DB, for no longer being around. so I can find out this information. Anyway, I found Star Blossom delightful. It's good. Like I said, she's a young girl. She has some sort of flower related ability. She can conjure up these flowers. In the story, there's a fire, and she helps because she basically, what does she do? She makes a bridge for people to come down out of the fire. Yeah. It's like a slide of flowers. And then she helps to smother the fire with these flowers. She says something in here about the flowers being, oh yeah, here it is. Oh boy, this is Latin, so, bear with me. Cochlospermum vidifolium? The highest water content of any flower. They don't burn. Get it? She tells Wonder Woman. I thought that was just adorable. Anyway, part of this story, so Wonder Woman shows up while Star Blossom is taking care of this, and then Wonder Woman gets invited to have dinner with her Star Blossom's parents. Hippolyta shows up. She ends up having dinner. There's a whole lot of talk about homemade mac and cheese and some other foods, which I just one that makes me hungry. But it was a nice echo and through line for these characters. There's also this brief flashback because Hippolyta shows up to tell Diana that one of Themyscira's guardians, which was a megalodon shark, is that redundant to say megalodon shark? Anyway, when Diana was younger, she developed this friendship with one of the sharks, and that shark recently died, and so Hippolyta was there, and it very much upsets Diana. And so she goes off to be alone, but then Star Blossom inserts herself into, invades Diana's privacy while she's having this moment, to give her a flower that she created, and it's a flower whose name, and I won't butcher more Latin by trying to pronounce it, but the flower means big sister, and so which of course helps to cheer Diana up. Anyway, I found all of this. I found this story quite endearing. It's very Gail Simone to me, just well done. And as far as the Colleen Doran art, very different. And maybe it's not just the colors. There's a different quality to Duran's art in this, and I'm not sure why that is, but I quite enjoyed it. And not that I don't enjoy Duran's art, I do. But I just thought it was interesting, the difference in style, I guess, here. Oh, and also I forgot to mention this. There's a scene in here where Hippolyta is discussing being a parent with Star Blossom's parents, and Star Blossom's mom asks Hippolyta, "Will you watch over our daughter?" And Hippolyta hugs Star Blossom's mother and says, "If you will promise to watch over mine." And then as the two are hugging, Hippolyta says, "Mr. McGill, if you please." And he says, "Me? I thought this was a mom thing." And Hippolyta is hugging both of them, saying, "No, it's worry. It's care. It's a parent thing." And I just love that. This story is followed up by a pinup by Liam Sharp. It's just him doing this. Liam Sharp's okay. I was enjoying his work recently on the Green Lantern book that he's doing currently as I record this. He's doing with Grant Morrison. But this image, I'm not... It kind of confuses me. Diana, again, it's really depicting the warrior aspect of her. She's got this big sword. Looks like she's wearing these boots she wears these essentially thigh-high boots a lot now. They look very much like battle plates, like armor, with these I want to say skeletal accents to it, and I point that out because she is standing on what appears to be, I guess, a skull of a, I don't know what, but because there's this twisted horn coming out one side, but it's not quite clear that anyway, the composition is weird to me. I'm not quite sure what it is that she's standing on or why. It implies that she defeated this monster, but it's a skull. I don't know. And then you got, like I said, the armored plating of her boots, which evokes like a skeletal aspect to it. And it's just a weird connection with the rest of, I don't know. It's a weird image, but maybe I'm just making too much out of it. But it's followed up by another pinup here by, let's see here, Emanuela Lupacchino and Tomeo Mori. And it's Diana front and center with other Amazons, like five different Amazons here. Well done, as Lupacchino often does. This is the second Wonder Woman book that we should have. It should be like Wonder Woman and the Amazons, or Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman and the Amazon, or something. I want to read this book. I want to read this story. I want to see Diana going off on adventures throughout time, and with these other Amazons, and whatever happens with them. So that would be really cool. Next up is The Interrogation. This is by Mariko Tamaki, who will be the new writer, I believe, on Wonder Woman coming up, with Elena Casagrande, Sunny Go, and Darren Bennett as well. So, I had a lot of questions about this one. So again, we get the fighter for peace motif that's brought up, and explicitly in this story. I thought the reveal of I guess he's a federal agent interrogating Diana as actually being Ares was too jarring, too unexpected. It's only a few pages, right? So there's not a lot of build-up they can do. I understand that. But the composition of the story itself was just a little too jagged, I guess. And the accusation that Ares throws at Diana of being a glory, or not, well, it is Ares, but the agent before he is revealed as Ares, the accusation he throws at Diana of being a glory hound and potential fraud is just totally dropped. So I guess I would have liked to have seen this as like a full issue story, or maybe this is supposed to be part of a story arc, given that Mariko Tamaki is like I said, coming out of the book. Maybe this has something to do with that. This is just kind of a taste of what's to come, perhaps. But then they've already revealed it, so I doubt it, but who knows. Also, once the reveal occurs, Ares becomes the stereotype that we've seen him in. This is basically the Ares that we saw at the beginning of Perez's Wonder Woman run back in 1980, 87, 88, whatever it was. He's spouting about how Diana's fight only feeds him, and they start fighting, but Diana traps him. But like I said, all I had were questions. What's Ares' motive? Is it to try to demoralize Diana, to kill her, to recruit her? I don't know. I don't understand what's going on here. And then, like I said, Diana captures him in this weird kind of virtual aspect to it. But I don't understand how or where he is and why he's trapped. I mean, he's the god of war. How is he? I don't understand. There's just too many missing pieces to this little vignette. Despite my misgivings about the story itself, I like what the art team does here, especially Go and the way that Diana is drawn to show via her facial expressions, especially. She's very irritated in various panels, bordering on anger as the story progresses. I like that aspect. You could just see and feel the anger bubbling up inside her as this agent, and then once Ares is revealed, then that's weird because she's shown as being very irritated, bordering on anger as the agent questions her, but as soon as Ares shows up, that kind of goes away and she goes into like this calm business mode. So that's interesting. I'm probably gonna have to pick up Mariko Tamaki's run, and I don't know who's the artist on that, or artists, I should say, on that. But now This may have convinced me to pick that up. In singles, I mean, as opposed to waiting for a trade, which is what I'm doing more and more these days. Following the story is a pinup by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and Trish Mulvihill. I have to say, I think Garcia Lopez has a very distinctive style, and he's one of my favorites because I saw a lot of his work when I first got into comics in the late 70s. However, I would not have picked this out except for maybe the face. If I just would have looked at this, I wouldn't have immediately said Garcia Lopez, which is interesting. So. But regardless, I mean, that's just a minor point. It's a very nice pose of Diana, but it's the details in the drawing that I especially like. She has a shield on the back of her on her back, and it's got notches in the edges from battle, which I thought was really cool. And then there's the embroidery on the cape on the cape lining that she's wearing, that I like. And then there's like this stocking-like material that she's wearing underneath her bracelets, which is really cool because are those called bracers? Anyway, to help protect her from I guess chafing of these metal bracelets. I thought that was a nice detail that you never see, or rarely. I don't recall ever seeing it, but I'm sure some artists have done this before. And then there's in the background, there's these Greek-looking buildings next to a waterfall. It's very picturesque, with a very serious-looking Diana standing there. And following that is another pinup. This is by Bilkis Evely and Matt Lopes. Or Lopez? Lopes. I love Evely's art, but in many similar to how I love Perez's art, but I don't like his Superman all that much. I do not care for Evely's Diana. Pinup itself is just way too busy. There's so much stuff in here, so much going on. However, I do like the storytelling aspect of what's going on in the background. She's shown helping soldiers. She's shown being a diplomat, helping people, being an inspiration to these little girls that are running through the bottom of it. I just like that aspect of this drawing, even if I don't care for the particular depiction by the artist of the main character. And that's okay. The next story is Never Change by Greg Rucka, Nicholas Scott, Romulo Fajardo Jr., and Rob Lee. Okay, here's another one where I had some misgivings about it. And it starts here with the words, this story takes place later. And of course I go, later than what? What we just read? The first story, what was it called now? The Wild Hunt finale. And the reason I say that is because in the Wild Hunt finale, Cheetah gets away, and then we are told through an editor's note to find out what happens with Cheetah, go read Justice League. And if you're reading Justice League, which I have not been, but I have an understanding of what's going on, she joins up with Lex Luthor and the Legion of Doom to take on the Justice League. And so that's where that story leads into. Immediately my brain goes from that to this, and this is later, and the story involves Cheetah. So I guess that's what this is. I guess after reading the story, I didn't need to be told that because it's obvious within the story. So I'm not sure why they decided to add the note. I don't know. I'm being picky, I know, but I get it. Cheetah is not just, a quote unquote villain. She's a former friend of Diana's, and Diana feels responsible for Cheetah and will not give up on her. We already just read that or at least I got that sense from the first story in this issue. So why do we need to go over that same beat again? Because in the story, Diana makes a deal with Cersei to give up, her lasso, I think, in exchange for some magic to reverse the curse that's on Cheetah to turn her back to her human self. But Cheetah rejects that, which then disappoints Diana. Anyway, it's just a repetition. I guess I expected better from Greg Rucka in terms of the story. I mean, it's for what it is. It's well done. I mean, it's well written. It's well executed by the art team. I'm not a huge fan of Nicholas Scott's artwork, but I really like this team of Scott and Fajardo together. It's well done that way. But it's just the resolution was just too pat. It's too easy. Cersei even takes pity on Diana and lets her out of the deal that they made. Although I will say I did like the depiction of Cersei as kind of like this trickster persona. That's a little different from what I've read of Cersei. Again, I've not read a whole lot of Cersei, but she is different because she's in the Justice League Dark run that I'm reading right now. And it's just a different take on that character, which I'm fine with. It's just interesting to compare the two. Other things I like about this, so I don't sound totally negative about this particular story. I like the opening panel with the scene, the Mardi Gras scene, because you have all these people dressed up as different DC heroes and villains. I thought that was nice. And in the bottom left corner of this are those the real Wonder Twins attending Mardi Gras? I thought that was nice. It might just be people dressed up, but it's hard to tell here. So I like that. Like I said, I mentioned I like Cersei's jester-like quality. I think perhaps this is the best sequential work in the book. So there's that. But I don't know that I need. I don't need to see this story ever again. I don't. Let Cheetah can be a villain. I don't know. It's similar to me, like Batman always trying to reform Two-Face. It never sticks. It never happens. Those things just don't work in these superhero stories because you got to keep those characters around, protect the IP and all that. So why try? If you're not going to move forward with it, why try? Okay, the next story is To Leave Paradise by Cami Garcia, Phil Hester, Andy Parks, Trish Mulvihill, and Gabriella Downey. There's not much here in this story, quite frankly. We get to see the younger Diana on Paradise Island. This is right before Steve shows up to ruin everything. To go back to my previous comments about Steve, Trevor. But it does highlight why Diana was so eager to leave Paradise. She's restless. She's young. She wants to see the world. She wants to contribute. Totally get that. It's another sort of coming of age story here. But what this story highlighted for me was that I would love to see more of Phil Hester's art in my comic books. Because I quite enjoyed this story based on the art alone. Now, some art I didn't appreciate all that much, which is funny because I love this artist, generally speaking. This is Emergency Visit by Shannon Hale, Dean Hale, Riley Rosmo, Ivan Placencia, and Joshua Reed. Oof. This was probably my least favorite story. I'll touch on this and then come back to the art. There were just so many tropes involved here. There's the nagging mother trope, really. I mean, I guess maybe that's really the only one. But Hippolyta tricks, I guess, Diana to come help her and the other Amazons fight this Hydra. But then once Diana's there, then she starts nagging her about not seeing her enough. In fact, she literally says, "Are you eating enough? You look too thin." All this irritates Diana, as it did me. But it's just, come on, it's just too much tropiness. I'm sorry, I keep using that word. I'm trying to think of a better word, but although I will say, I will give it this. It is a nice reminder of people to spend time with your parents. You really should do that. And yes, I talked to my dad yesterday. So it's something I totally get. However, like I said, before when I was talking about Everly's take on Wonder Woman, didn't care for it. Boy, I do not like how Riley Rosmo draws Wonder Woman. Or, well, no, not I was going to say any of the characters, but that doesn't. The rest of them are fine. It's typical Riley Rosmo. I just do not care for his Wonder Woman at all. Put him on Martian Manor, which they did. Perfect for that character. Just the mutable nature of his art and the malleable body types or changes that he evokes, especially in that Manhunter series. Yes, but not Diana. No, just no. Okay. Getting towards the end here. The next one is To Me by Marguerite Bennett, Laura Braga, Romulo Fajardo Jr. again, and Wes Abbott. This is neither here nor there, but curiously, this was the only story in this book without an actual title on the page. It's in the inside cover where they list all the credits for everything, but I did not see it in the story at all. Anyway, this is set in the Bombshells world, which is something that I read very little of, but I recognize the characters. I quite enjoyed this. It was a good story. It was examining the effect of Wonder Woman on these other characters. For Steve Trevor, Diana taught him how to heal himself. For Mira, how to love, which made me think: did they have a relationship in this story, in the Bombshells stories? For Soviet Supergirl, how to deal with grief after the death of one of the characters, I forget who. For the Wonder Girls, which I didn't realize that those characters, because I stopped reading the Bombshell stuff early on. There's all these Wonder Girls who are inspired by Wonder Woman. They are inspired by her, how to use their strength. And then the final page is Diana ruminating about her life or mission. She says, which is, as she says, to try to do good, do and be better and kinder and wiser than before. While wordy, I felt that could have used a little more editing. I totally agree with the sentiment. It's a good thing to go by, a good motto, if you will. So in terms of theme and who the character is, this is probably the best express story of that, of what Wonder Woman represents. And just generally speaking, I quite enjoyed the Braga Fajardo art. And if that is, I don't remember if that is the team that's typically in Bombshells. I want to say no, but I might have to look up more of the Bombshell stuff. Hopefully, it's on the DC Universe app, and I can read more of that. Next is Always by Vida Ayala, Amin K. Nahuelpan. Oh boy, Nahulpan. Apologies. J. David Ramos and Clayton Coles. So where in these other Cheetah stories, where Cheetah will always be the one who never accepts Diana's help, in this story, Vanessa Capitelis, the Silver Swan, does. So it is Diana's compassion and friendship who helps to heal her friend. And as she told Vanessa in the flashback in this story, Vanessa needs to want the help from her. Quote, if, and this is from Vanessa's point of view, if Wonder Woman believes in me, maybe there is hope. And I really like that message. And I think that's something that I wish they would kind of play up more. And again, maybe they do, and I haven't really seen it in the Wonder Woman comics that I have read. But I would like to see that more depicted more, especially in group settings, not just one-on-one with her and other characters, but like in the Justice League. That's certainly not where she is in Justice League Dark currently. But given where she is in Justice League Dark currently, I can see where that doesn't really make sense to play up. So, lovely art. It evokes a bit of Art Adams to me. Or not Art Adams. Who am I trying to think of here? No, it's Adam Hughes. especially in the way that Diana's eyes are drawn. Well, and Silver Swan too. In fact, there's lots of eye work in this story as I'm flipping through it. And then finally, we get to the end here, A Brave New World by Scott Snyder, Brian Hitch, Mike Spicer, and Tom Napolitano. So this makes me wonder, was this to be the beginning of Dan DiDio's 5G initiative? Because, this is the way what's told here is this is 1939, New York, and FDR is there with, I believe, Joe Kennedy. I'm not quite sure of that, but it makes sense if it is. FDR is to give a speech about peace. And so anyway, FDR and Joe are talking about this speech that he's supposed to give, where the plan is to release some doves at the end of the speech. He reaches the climactic moment and then the doves will be released, whatever. Joe, in the story, reminds FDR that doves aren't just symbols of peace, they are also messengers. In this story, Diana shows up foiling an assassination attempt by a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. I don't know. It's unclear in the way it's drawn, but saving FDR's life. And she says to him, she's there to fight a great evil with him. Will you join me? And then this is the cheesy part. FDR hits the button, releasing the doves, and there's this wonderful splash page here with Wonder Woman standing there and all these doves flying around. Again, the doves and Wonder Woman, warrior for peace. We get it, but nicely executed by the art team. And then we get the last page of the story, where we're shown all these black and white newsreels of Wonder Woman doing her heroic things, and then in the audience is someone who is inspired by her, and that is Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. He's got the green ring, and so I instantly got excited. Alan Scott's one of my very favorite DC characters. And the whole idea of Wonder Woman being the first superhero because she was back in World War II, I like that idea. So that whole, because that was part of the 5G initiative. And then in the March previews, there was the solicitation for Generation 1. And that's, I think this is leading into that. I think that was the purpose of this. Obviously, with Dan DiDio no longer at DC Comics, and given the comments by the remaining publisher, Jim Lee, about what 5G is and, Generation 1 and all that stuff. So I imagine things are a bit up in the air right now, a bit more malleable than perhaps they were. But still, we all know that they're bringing back the Justice Society. This is obvious here, showing that. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what that means exactly and how it's going to be executed. Like I said, I enjoyed this quite a bit. I like, Brian Hitch does a nice enough job. I'm actually used to him doing a little bit better than what I saw here, but completely fine. What I'm more surprised about is how much I enjoyed the words here, Snyder's words, because I'm not a huge Scott Snyder fan. But this was a well-crafted introduction to the new status quo, we'll say, for now. Who knows what it will actually end up being, but I quite enjoyed this. So, as with the previous special books, Action Comics and Detective Comics 1000, it was pretty easy for me to pick out some favorite stories. It's clear that, one story, especially in those, were well done, well executed, and they were my favorite. I can't really say that about any of the stories in this collection. Not one of them had an overall great impact on me. There were many elements, as I've just described, in most of these stories that I responded to. But as a whole, nothing really grabbed me. So I found that really strange. And so why is that? Is it the fault of the publisher for not defining what this character is about adequately, or not supporting the character with additional books and stories to fill out Diana's universe, to expose her more to me? Is it my fault for not reading more Wonder Woman? Why don't I read more Wonder Woman? I like the character. I like what she represents in various ways. I don't know. But what does that mean? What does she represent? I talked about her being the warrior princess, the emissary of peace. There's that old interpretation of her as a symbol of loving submission, whatever that means, that idea doesn't really play out a whole lot to me nowadays. That shouldn't, that's part of her past. It shouldn't be what defines Wonder Woman. And maybe that's just it. Maybe it's just, like with Superman and Batman, you can distill them down, and I will do that here, to a simple idea. And my interpretation of that is Superman is strength, and not just physical strength. It's strength of character. Batman is resolute. He has great resolve in his mission. What is Wonder Woman? She's a bunch of these things. And there have been times where she's been kind of defined as a melding of Superman and Batman, or some sort of go-between between the two. And I totally think that's the wrong take. She should not be defined by these two icons of the DC universe. She's the third pillar of these icons, the Trinity, as you will. And she should have her own representation. She should be her own representation. But it's not as simple as I take Superman and Batman. But maybe that's better, because while it's frustrating that she doesn't get, more recognition, more sales, quite frankly, part of that is, like I said, my fault. I don't buy more Wonder Woman books. I'm not as connected to her, and I don't know why. But I do recognize, so even though I can't distill her down to a very simple concept, but maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that with these characters, because she's not just one thing. She's many things. And, I know Superman and Batman are many things to different people too, but I think it's really easy. It's much easier to distill them down into a very simple concept. And maybe they are, simple characters, whereas Diana is not. She is a complex, three-dimensional character. She's more real in that way than perhaps Superman and Batman. And that's a good thing. From a storytelling standpoint, that's a great thing. So, I don't know, I'm just going to have to, I guess, examine my prejudices, my biases of the character. Why don't I engage more with Wonder Woman? Anyway, I'd be very interested in your take on this. What does Wonder Woman mean to you? And how wrong am I in this quarrel I'm having internally about Wonder Woman? So let me know. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts about who and what Wonder Woman Diana is. Especially in relation to her place in DC Comics, and maybe we'll maybe get more of that with this new status quo. Like I said, with her being the first official superhero, assuming of course they don't radically change that between what has already been announced and what will be published. Anyway, overall, I quite enjoyed this. It's nice to come back into a Wonder Woman book, as I do occasionally, to see what I'm missing and to see the different interpretations of the character and her supporting cast. And that's what these big anniversary or milestone issues are supposed to do. That's what they do well. And so it's a nice potential jumping on point of the main comic book, or the ongoing book. So, like I said, what did you think of Wonder Woman 750 and all the stuff that I just threw at you? Let me know. I'd appreciate it. You can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com or leave comments at the blog longboxreview.com. And I am looking forward to eventually, hopefully, talking about Wonder Woman 1000, just like the other two got. But that'll be a while. All right. I will leave you with that. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.